Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today we are joined by Jay Gibb. Jay is the founder and CEO of CloudSponge. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan.
It's a pleasure to get to interview you today. I'm excited. We've been trying to get some time on the calendar for a while now, so this is a treat for me. Jay, we are actually going to be talking today about how to design a B2B referral program, and you've got some great. But before we jump into that, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you and the CloudSponge team are up to these days.
Sure, yeah. CloudSponge sells software that allows users to access their address books without leaving our clients' websites. So it's typically useful in any place where you're asking your user to enter in email addresses of their contacts. So sometimes that's a comma-separated list of email addresses for a referral program, or it's a list of recipients for an e-card or an e-vite, or it's, inserting an address book for finding friends inside a social network, like you've seen in most of the social networks out there. And so our software is kind of a single point of integration for several dozen address books around the world, and we've got thousands of customers using it for those different growth activities. And one of the more popular one is referral programs, and I think that's why we're here to talk about that today.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you're sort of an expert in this field. So one of the reasons we wanted to get you on the show, talking about how to design a B2B referral program, and you have been through this. You've seen it within your own company. You've seen it with the clients that you've worked with, and we've got kind of 4 main points that we're going to go through, things that you should be considering, that you should be thinking about. Starting off with this idea of nurturing your customers. So Jay, take it away. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So, as a part of what we do for our customers is we occasionally will zoom into their specific implementation of our software with them and help them figure out how to get more juice out of it, get more horsepower out of it. And one of the patterns that we've noticed is that the ones that seem to be doing really well, the ones that have a really low abandonment rate, which is what we refer to as sort of the number of people that don't make it through the CloudSponge product or through the address book importing. The ones that have the best abandonment rates, the lowest abandonment rates, are the ones that really set the context and nurture their customers in a way that allow their customers to know that this is important for their business and really get them to be a part of their growth machine and have the customers consciously know that that's an important thing to this company. And so that, that's things like, making sure that they know that referrals are important, but if you don't happen to know somebody that you can, that might need the solution right now, some of the other options would be, leaving reviews on review sites like G2 Crowd or Capterra, participating in a case study, right, and actually getting on the phone for half an hour and unpacking how did my company help your company kind of thing. And I know that there's a couple episodes on your podcast about that are my favorites that I've shared with my team. And people that can't do don't want to do a case study and get a testimonial out of them or something. And
Yeah.
if you do that sort of systematically, and your whole company is doing it, your support team is doing it, it's sort of part of your messaging in general, and you're nurturing that part of your customers, you'll find that they're more likely to think of you when they do have somebody that they can refer, right? And so I've just found that that's a pretty common pattern for the most successful B2B referral programs out there.
That's great. Yeah. Nurturing the customers, realizing that there's other things besides referrals that have value, makes a lot of sense. And sort of even beyond this idea of, like you said, almost staying top of mind so that they are thinking about you, getting them integrated into almost part of the process, is this idea of integrating the referrals into the application. Kind of like what does that look like?
Yeah. So, another pattern is these companies that will make sure that the referral, there's almost like a referral dashboard, or like a dashboard within their product where the customers can go and keep track of who they've referred, whether or not those people have taken action on the referrals, which also acts as a way for them to be reminded to follow up with those people for you, and to keep track of rewards that they've been given, or rewards that have been given to the referred party because of them, right? I think really the mistake that I've seen a lot of companies make, that we try to get them to improve, is they're kind of lazy, and they just rely on an occasional email. They say, hey, by the way, we could really use referrals, and they'll send an email once a year, once a quarter, and that's all they really do. And they don't take the time to really weave the referral workflow natively into their application or their app or whatever it is. And that's just a game changer once they do that. And it's sort of got its own button in the menu. It's got its own place where it lives inside the app. It'll just perform dramatically better than if you don't have that kind of thing.
It's story time, and this growth story is about search engine marketing. Okay, so the story revolves around eSub, a project management SaaS company specifically for subcontractors. Even though eSub had incredible customer retention, they struggled with growth. Being a niche service, they discovered that there was little demand expressed for their solutions within search engines. To take on this challenge, eSub hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. After pre-qualifying clicks with an ad copy and developing custom landing pages, Directive was able to increase eSub's marketing qualified leads by 71%, while decreasing their cost per lead by 65%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yep, absolutely. And sort of speaking of this dashboard, speaking of the app, you've got kind of a thought on the user interface and the sort of the do's and do nots in terms of these email addresses.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the actual nitty gritty of the UI itself, the one mistake that every one of our customers is avoiding by using CloudSponge is not making their users type email addresses. So it's really common for us to see or have customers tell us anecdotally that they get a 2 to 3 times improvement to the number of referral emails that are sent when they just let the user access their address book inside the app, and they don't make them go to a different window or a different tab to copy and paste email addresses and sort of manually construct a comma separated list. That's just something that people don't have the patience for. They'll type, they might type in 2, but there's no way you'll get somebody to type in 4 or 8 or 16 email addresses one by one. You need to give them a way to access that address book from your app, so that it's as easy and seamless as possible. And that applies even more to other use cases that we have for things like invitation workflows for e-cards and evites. Like most of those, you're sending out a holiday card or an invitation for an event or like a wedding registry or something like that, you're going to be sending it to 20, 50, 100 people, right? And really the only way to successfully have an interaction with a user for something like that is to let them access their address book without leaving your website.
Yeah. And, I mean, certainly that requires a measure of trust. And I think that is also kind of relates a little bit, at least, back to how the way in which you nurture these customers and the way that you integrate the referrals into the application, like how the experience that they have doing it and setting yourself up to be trustworthy. So this last and fourth point, though, is actually I think also some advice that our listeners will be able to take back to their companies right now in this idea of figuring out the reward schemes. What does that look like? What kind of advice do you have for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a big spectrum, but I like to get down into four blocks. On one dimension, you've got rewards for either the referrer or the referred party, or both. And on the other dimension, you've got rewards for either the company that this person works for or for the individual. And so let me just kind of break those down to give you a couple examples, right? So oftentimes, especially if your customer works for a large company, they're going to be motivated mostly by earning a reward for themselves, such as a gift card or some swag, like a T-shirt or whatever, depending on the price point of your product and that kind of thing. Or they're going to be motivated by getting the person that they're going to refer something for themselves, such as a gift card to Amazon or something along those lines. Because those types of people don't care too much about saving $25 a month or some amount of money for the company that they work for, because it's not their money that they're saving, right?
Right.
Now, if you've got kind of more SMB and smaller companies, the other dimension of the rewards, I think, is more appropriate. Where if you're selling to smaller companies, you're potentially selling to the founder or one of the first sort of people that really they're more price sensitive and they do care a lot about those discounts. You can offer them a referral reward, saves them 25% on their next bill, or saves their the person that they're going to refer 25% on their next bill, or something along those lines, right?
Yep.
And so for me, though, obviously within each of those four boxes, there's variety. Whereas obviously you've got different amounts and different types of swag and things like that you need to test. But the big place to start is with those four boxes, and make sure you're testing all four of them. And then when you figure out which one or two works for you, then kind of go deeper and do some fine tuning on what those actual dollar amounts are.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Well, and obviously, Jay, I mean, you are the expert. You've seen some tremendous success, with CloudSponge. And I'd kind of like to take this opportunity, sort of speaking of CloudSponge, that you are the founder, you are the CEO, you have a vision for the company. And this is a question we've been asking a lot of our guests, especially in 2018. And I'd like to kind of know if you're willing to share with our listeners around this idea of legacy and kind of what kind of legacy you are hoping to leave behind at the end of the day, whether that is personal, professional, or even a combination of the two.
Well, I want to be able to look back on CloudSponge and say that I followed the golden rule with the way that I built the company. I think all founders like me are pulled in a dark direction where you're being sold people are trying to sell you lists and hacks and all kinds of things that are very, very tempting, that appear to be the way that they make it seem like it's ways that other people have grown their businesses, and sometimes you feel like you should do it too, or you have to do it too. And we've been really disciplined about saying no to all those types of things, and we've always taken the the harder path, or the upper ground, as they say, and really made sure that when I think back on the legacy of CloudSponge, I want to feel like we've built it the right way, and I want to be proud of all the decisions I've made with the different growth tactics that we've used.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, there's so much temptation out there to take a lot of shortcuts, to just, to blast your message out by any means necessary. And there's so many tools available. There's different ways that you can almost like got that get rich quick scheme feel to it. So, I love the idea of looking back, of creating something that is genuine, that is thoughtful, that is real. I mean, you put in obviously the hard work, the long hours. I know we had talked a little bit before we started recording about, giving up sizable short-term gains, but in the pursuit of building something that obviously you will always be proud of. So, Jay, this has been, it's a great legacy. We definitely wish you all the best, achieving that legacy, continued success with CloudSponge. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us today about how to design a B2B referral program. If any of our listeners have questions, maybe about today's topic, or they want to connect with you, they want to find out more about CloudSponge, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
The best way to find out about CloudSponge is just from www.cloudsponge.com. And anybody who wants to connect with me can do that on LinkedIn. I guess you'll probably link that up in the show notes, but my name is just JayGibb. I think you'll find me come up first on the LinkedIn results for that.
Perfect. Yeah, we are going to definitely be including a link in the show notes, so definitely check that out. Jay, thank you again so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to interview you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing podcasting. You know all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency at no cost. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.